Hi all. These are generally conversations between adults after the children have left the table. The language can be spicy and the subjects can get saucy. So if you're ready, this is the Southern Fork. Unscripted kitchen chats and also studio chats with some of the most interesting voices in the culinary South. I'm Stephanie Burt, a food and beverage writer based in Charleston, South Carolina, who travels with her fork to write for a variety of publications, from magazines you might have on your coffee table to the website you love to visit for your favorite recipes. And I'm inviting you to come behind the scenes with me to get to know the people who make this Southern culinary landscape so special. I'm always hungry for the next bite, thirsty for that next sip, and ready for the next conversation. Let's dig in. The Southern Fork is sponsored by Townsend Honda in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. This year, many of us are learning to cherish anew things closer to home, and that goes for any trips away from it as well. Enter the road trip, perfect for a weekend getaway, a camp out as the weather cools, or, if you're like me, dinner reservations. Townsend Honda began 46 years ago with the late Charles Townsend, who started selling cars in his hometown of Memphis in the early 50s. Later, he and his family moved to Alabama, and in 1972, he purchased the local Ford dealership, and in 74, the Honda dealership followed. Today, this company is still built on service and connection with its customers, and they want to remind you of the joys of a jaunt down the road. It's the annual Happy Honda Days sales event all this month, which means if you're looking to get one of the most reliable vehicle brands on the market, there are all kinds of deals, from 0.9% APR financing on most 2020 models to clearance prices on 2020 vehicles. It's one of the best times of year to purchase a car at Townsend Honda, and you can visit townsendhonda.com for current inventory, or if you're in West Alabama, stop in. Townsend Honda salutes local entrepreneurs, from restaurateurs to podcasters, and they welcome you to be part of a community that does the same. A chef's life is often head down, hard work, a repetition of tasks and days where you see the sun for a few minutes on the drive in, or if you have to walk out the kitchen door to take out the trash. You're more of a cooking station than an individual, but for some, the ideas of what I would do if I had a restaurant begin to fill the drudgery with dreams. Opening a restaurant is always risky, but for Chef Nathan Brand of Johnson City, Tennessee, intention led the way. He got his start at the National in Athens, Georgia, and went on to cook in Richmond and stage both in the U.S. and Europe. When it came time to make his dream a reality, he focused first on location and then sourcing locally to help build a neighborhood restaurant. Timber on West Walnut Street in downtown Johnson City is that dream. A restaurant whose menu mixes fine dining touches with plenty of French fries and comfort foods, and he's still dreaming of what's going to come next. Welcome to the Southern Fork, Nathan.
Hello. How are you?
I'm well. It sounds like you're sitting in your empty restaurant. Is that the case today?
You know, there's some construction actually happening in the building next door. It's currently empty, and they're adding. I'm not sure what they're adding. I think it's a laundromat. So they're cutting a water line next to the restaurant today. So I decided that it would not be a good place to record. So I came to my house. I'm sitting in my study right now.
Excellent. Well, I'm sitting facing a duck pond because my fence is being replaced today.
I tell you what, there is so much construction right now. I feel like everybody's working on their house or working on their building because, you're spending a lot of extra time there. You might as well make it nice.
Exactly. Well, I loved having the opportunity to visit you and meet you and see the restaurant when I was recently in Johnson City, Tennessee. And although I really worked valiantly to get back to you to record a podcast during that road trip, it just wasn't meant to be, mainly because of poor planning on my part. So I appreciate you agreeing to chat with me today because I really enjoyed your food. Like, I ate that whole salad in 3 minutes. And
thank you so much. That's
and the smoked vanilla ice cream. And didn't we have smoked fish dip? We had some fish dip, and it was just so nice. So I wanted to spend a little more time with you today and introduce you to Southern Fork listeners, because frankly, I was surprised that a restaurant that you've created like this existed in Johnson City, Tennessee. Can you tell me the inspiration for Timber?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you for the kind words, and I'm so glad to be here. I think hearing that you were surprised is exactly what we're going for at Timber. We started Timber we opened in August of 2019, but we worked on it for several years before that to get all the ducks in a row. My wife and I discovered Johnson City when she came to interview here at East Tennessee State University. She's a clinical psychologist at the university. And that's how we discovered Johnson City. And we very quickly realized that it was perfect for what we had agreed would be my plan, which would be to open a restaurant.
So that takes care of the location, but the style. I mean, we've got some high level, style going inside the restaurant. Can you talk to us a little bit about that? It's an old, was it an old butcher shop originally?
Yeah, it's an old butcher shop. It's a pretty basic building. It's a concrete slab floor, cinder block walls, metal rafters, and a flat roof. And it was purposely built as a butcher shop back in the day. And some older folks, in their 60s or 70s around here that I talked to used to go to the butcher shop. It was the neighborhood shop, which is really cool. Most recently, before us, it was a little coffee shop and beer bar that closed, and that afforded us the opportunity to kind of take that spot because it was it's always been a well-known neighborhood location. And that was a huge part of what we were going for. I think, I am a big fan of neighborhood restaurants. And I don't think people really understood, sort of what that genre, what the goal of a neighborhood restaurant is here in Johnson City. But I think we've kind of taken them along on the journey to figure it out. And they really are loving it. I think one way I described the project early on was, to my partners and to investors, and to my wife who, helps make sure that I don't do anything too stupid, was I wanted it to be a place that people felt comfortable no matter what. Because a lot of chefs, and I have, a pretty extensive fine dining background. That's really those are the only places I've ever really worked. And so typically someone on that path would open maybe a real fancy restaurant. Something like a flagship that you can really hang your hat on. And
we talked about that. Right.
Oh, yeah. And so for me, it was a difficult and counterintuitive decision to open something more casual. But I mean, damn, in this time, I feel very lucky. Fine dining is being hit pretty hard, and we're surviving and on the edge of thriving, I feel like, every week. And so that's a really good place to be. Opening a restaurant in August of 2019, nobody knew what was coming. We were gearing up for a triumphant first year. And as it was, August 2020 was, we couldn't throw a party. We made it, we made it through that first year, which is tough for every restaurateur. But we weren't allowed to have a party or anything. So it was a little sad, but there's always next year to celebrate.
There's always next year to celebrate. And going back to this idea of Johnson City being a good place to really hang your hat professionally.
Yeah.
And this being something that was surprising to me to find. This is a restaurant that seems totally at home in Nashville or in Atlanta or even in DC. So, why Johnson City? What was it about Johnson City that captured you?
That is such a great question. Well, I'll tell you, when the decision for us came down to quality of life, I think. My wife's other job opportunity was at Johns Hopkins in Baltimore. And I think that would be considered another good market for someone young like me who's trying to open their first project and be an entrepreneur and kind of step out from under the wings of your mentors. And
I'm a fan of Baltimore too.
Yeah, I love Baltimore. Yeah, my brother actually lives there now. So because of COVID, we haven't been able to go up and visit, but I love Baltimore, and those two options were very attractive. But I think, Stephanie, like we wanted to have a family. We ended up having identical twin boys who are about 19 months old now. But we knew that we could afford to buy a house here in Johnson City, and for us, that was we were looking to put down roots and looking to put down, looking to be stable and looking to live here for conceivably for the rest of our life. And so we felt most at home in the South.
So you're Southern, but Appalachian is different. It's
so different.
It's not Southern in the same way. And this is something that is a very important tenet of this show, is that the word Southern actually has multiple definitions. There are many Souths. There are many Southern cuisines. There are many regional Appalachian cuisines. So, I get the sense that Johnson City is pretty traditional and runs kind of a little more conservative than probably your family does. How have you navigated that?
It has been the most rewarding experience I could have ever hoped for. I mean, kind of going back to what you said earlier about being able to see this restaurant in Atlanta or Nashville, a big part of our project at Timber is bringing the outside in. And I think Appalachia has for so long been, it's just an isolated place by nature of its geography, and not much else. And so the geography has, to me, directly translated into the way that people live and behave and their cultural tenets. And, I grew up in Atlanta and then lived in Athens, Georgia for a really long time. And so after school, I went to UJ. So after school, I stayed there and cooked. And it's been a very, very rewarding experience for me to come from somewhere, very liberal, progressive, always looking for the next thing, not just politically, but
just
more
general.
Yeah, right. Like I'm more, if you were to be overly stereotypical about it, I think you would say that Appalachia is more closed-minded and a place like Athens, Georgia is more open-minded. But I think that has so much to do with trust. I've found that building trust in this community here has been the secret to unlocking just like a richer experience culturally of living here. And I've worked really hard to telegraph and explicitly tell folks that, I'm trying to live here for the rest of my life. I'm not just coming up here to make a buck and leave.
You're investing.
I'm investing, and I love this place so much, and that's been so rewarding. And I think I was listening to Dave Chang's podcast recently. We can talk about it, but I'm a huge podcast nerd. That's all I do all day while I prep and clean the house and stuff. And so I was listening to his podcast, and he was talking about what it's like why more people don't leave cities and move into the country. And That was something, that's something that maybe, is going to be happening now because of COVID, but it happened for me and for Timber and my family because of just the quality of life here. It's a very affordable place to live. It's a small town. So if you want to, if you are passionate about something, it's probably just you're probably the only one. There's not a lot of competition for things, and that is really special. You can be a leader, and that's
right. You can make your mark.
Yeah,
it's good.
You can make your
you
mark.
Feel
right.
like you're investing, and that investment is paying off in a way.
Exactly.
Creatively. And when you're saying this idea of building trust, let's be real, Nathan. A great way to do that is to cook really good food.
Oh man, yeah.
So I have a twofold question, and that is, one, how did you kind of devise the menu? And I know it's seasonal and shifting, and to that end, but you have to have fences on a creative project, or you don't have a point of view, and you definitely have a point of view at Timber. And then secondly, how did you plug into the purveyors that you needed? Because I'm going to guess that is really a foundation of how you built the menu.
Yeah, absolutely. For me, I drew a lot of inspiration from one of my mentors, Peter Dale. And Peter owns the National in Athens, along with some other businesses like Condor Chocolates, Amazing Chocolate, and Sea Bear Oyster Bar. And he, when I was one of his sous chefs, I got to travel with Peter on trips and meet purveyors and kind of learn how to follow up and network with farmers. And I built up a great sort of lexicon of Southern producers from more the deeper South. But I had a little bit of training in how to do it. But it was the biggest thing that I was worried about moving here, was that there's the good stuff doesn't exist, which is so crazy. And I was worried about that. And I called him.
Everywhere. It's
everywhere. And I saw
that on my trip. Yeah.
Yeah. And, he was like, oh my gosh, no, you're wrong. They're there. Just plant a flag and put out the call and you'll find it. And of course, instantly I was like, oh my God, Benton's Bacon is down the road. Like what?
Alan Benton,
Creamery.
Yes, is such good cheese. Come on.
Oh, right. Incredible stuff. Right. And so, and these are all producers that, I grew up in Atlanta and cooked in Athens for so long. I'd never worked with, just because they're more Appalachian. And so, the first thing that I did when I got here was I opened a little pop-up, breakfast and lunch pop-up called the Orchard Mason in downtown Johnson City, inside of a coffee shop called Dos Gatos. I'll forever be indebted to the owner, Dick Nelson, for letting me do that and charging me a really low rent to kind of take over his kitchen space and offer some breakfast and lunch items. And that was really special. That afforded me, I was able to build relationships with purveyors, and I was able to sort of build a rapport with the community. And I was able to really move through some cool products. We always had Sequatchie Cove cheese on the lunch menu. We always had Benton's Bacon as an option to add to any breakfast sandwich. We did a hand sliced Benton's.
Why wouldn't you?
Right. It's the best. We did I know, he's the best. He's the best. And so I was able to sort of introduce those products to my clientele by teaching myself about them. I had to learn about them, and I did that on the go. And it was a really, really rewarding thing, because there are not, surprisingly, there just aren't that many apologists for the good stuff, even though the producers are right around the corner. Getting it into the consumer's hands is really tough. Johnson City doesn't have an independent boutique grocery or co-op or bodega. We don't have too much of a cheesemonger, or we don't have a place where you can buy a whole Benton's ham. You got to order it from them online or drive there. And so there are all these products that exist, and a few people are growing them, buying them, creating them, selling them, but not a critical mass. And coming from Athens and having worked for Hugh Atchison for several years, I really saw how he was able to build the network of good food. And for me, almost more than anything else, the project of timber is just building the market for the good stuff.
And that is something that I've seen in other communities. And I've definitely seen this in Atlanta and in Athens as well. But I'm interested to see if you could do this here. Lots of times, chefs will go to bat, so to speak, for a particular producer. And they will say, look, I want this person to drive to Johnson City once a week. So this farmer needs more customers, needs more wholesale clients. And so you become an evangelist for this product because you want it more consistently. And what happens is then other chefs use it in their own creative ways, and you create a market for that producer. Is that what's happening for you?
It's exactly the case, and for us, it's also in the beverage world. I mean, I'm a big collector of spirits and beer, and I'm trying to learn more about wine these days. And it's tough. Most of the time I drive the hour to Asheville to go shopping for wine or to grab some burial beer, which isn't distributed here. And so that willingness to travel is kind of like a big part of being a Johnson City resident. If you are looking for good food and beverage, a lot of times you'll just drive to Asheville or maybe Knoxville. And a big part of the timber project was to keep that money here in our own local economy. And there's a lifetime of businesses to be built here based around good food and beverage, and we're already seeing the market move. I moved here about 5 years ago. Kermit Lynch wines were not distributed here, and now they are. Eric Solomon's wines and European Cellars was not distributed here. Now they are, and we always have 1 or 2 bottles of their stuff on the menu. Sweetgrass Dairy Green Hill, which I know is from the deeper South, one of my favorite cheeses. That didn't used to be sold here. And, Oh, really? Oh, that's cool.
And Benton as well. Alan.
Yes, I listened to that episode. That was a great episode. He's a really cool dude.
I mean, it's just him. Have you found a community of other culinary professionals that y'all can help each other lift each other up?
That's a great question. I think that has been actually pretty tough. There are a couple people here that really, I think that I would characterize as getting it. And that's really great. John Bryant at Gourmet and Company, he's been using all kinds of great Appalachian products and foraged mushrooms and local produce for so long. And so it's really, he's really kind of carried the flame for a long time. But, he's a little outside of the downtown area. So for downtown, I think that's a pretty new thing. Downtown Johnson City, I'm sure you got the chance to walk around and see it. There's still a lot of empty buildings. There's a lot of,
but
there's still
things
a lot
were happening on a Sunday
oh my gosh.
in the South in Johnson City. So it didn't feel very empty. Yeah.
No, it's true. And during a pandemic as well. I mean, I think I have often characterized Johnson City as something of a frontier town to folks, to try to help them understand a little bit of what it's like here. But the community is growing, and it's growing fast. We just had I haven't met her yet, but a chef helped open Watauga Brewing Company, which is putting out some cool food and using some great local products. And we're starting to build a community here for sure. We have Dos Gatos Coffee Bar, which serves counterculture coffee and uses local milk. I mean, they make an amazing drink and they're great people, independently owned. As far as finding people that are willing to come and, take a chance and open something, there are those people. But I think the harder part is finding the skilled labor. It's pretty easy to find people that are gung ho and ready to come and work for us or for someone else, but they have not worked at other quality restaurants. They worked at chains. They're not used to the independent, small business.
Right. And that happens a lot. I mean, you can't do what you do without skilled labor.
For us, we've been training them from the beginning. I mean, we have been lucky to have really great people work with us, both in the front and the back of house at the restaurant. And we've had a really low turnover rate. We have so many great people that have been with us since day one, before day one. And so those people are out there, and we take that responsibility very seriously and try to train them as well as we can. I like to think of, what we're trying to do as giving them the tools to open their own place here. And that's what I would love to see.
Right. And I mean, I recently had on, Annie Cotrano from Atlanta.
Oh, yeah.
We had mentioned that. And she raised chefs in that kitchen that go on to open other things in Atlanta. And so it does happen, but it happens through community. I think a lot of people always ask me, how do you build a culinary destination or a culinary scene? It's always connecting people together and inspiring people. Yeah. You're making great inroads, Nathan, in a year of pretty big challenges. What's next? What's making you hungry?
Wow. Yeah. Well, it's funny because I had I think everybody, 2020 was my year. I had all these plans and I am so glad that they didn't work out. I mean, I think the reason that they didn't work out has been pretty terrible for all of us, but I think that I am too often overambitious and I'm not present enough and I'm always looking at the next thing. And this year has really forced me to slow down and spend time with my family, which has been amazing. I do all the prep at the restaurant now in the mornings and I'm kind of like the AM sous chef guy now. And I get to come home and cook dinner for my family while my sous chef runs service and my business partner runs front of house. And so I have very pleased with the way that the restaurant and the pandemic and the restaurant and my family have adapted to the pandemic. But I do still have the itch to do something else. And we do have a bead on a space downtown that we've always wanted to open a restaurant in. But, it's a small, intimate, 40-seat restaurant kind of place. And
not the moment for that.
Not the moment, And so for me, that's hard. But I think I have a lot of faith and I've learned a good bit of patience this year. And I think what makes me hungry is just being present and being there for the people that trust me. I think my community trusts me to keep timber around for them. And we're not worried about that. We're surviving. And I think it's going to be an ugly winter for all restaurants, but I think we're going to make it through. And that's good. But I think, that's what gets me really going is just following through on the commitments that I have now and trusting that I'll be able to, spread my wings a little bit more when this is all over.
I feel the same way too. I'd like to get on a plane really badly.
Oh, yes, me too.
So what is one aspect of being a chef, this job that you've created for yourself that really meshes like a puzzle piece with an aspect of your personality? Just one.
Yeah. I'm very much a people person. I really love going around to the tables and speaking with them, checking in on the regulars and catching up with everybody. And it's been nice. We have a really large patio that we didn't really use didn't really think of as a big asset when we built out the restaurant, but obviously now it's the thing that has kept us alive. And so it's so special to have that and to be able to go out to tables. And even though we're all wearing masks, whenever we're not stuffing food in our face, it's really nice to be able to see people face to face. And I've always been a very extroverted person. My senior superlative was friendliest. So I think that being able to connect with the people and like see the smile on the guest's face is that's the thing that I think meshes the most. Food is a way to get to that place for me.
Yeah. What keeps you up at night?
Man, I had a lot of sleepless nights this year. It's kind of coming to an end. I think I'm feeling I'm sleeping a lot better these days, but gosh,
babies
during
will
the summer,
that too.
Babies will do that. During the summer, I was kept up quite a lot by just fear and worry that this thing that I had scrimped and saved and sacrificed so much for was in jeopardy of failing through no fault of my own, which is, I would much rather it be my fault so I can learn from it than it be something like this. And that was really hard. But I'm sleeping a lot better now. I think we have been able to steer the ship in a way that's going to keep us alive. And we really do. We've been able to, invest in morale a little bit, hang out with the staff and try to be together and build that staff family that is like the best part of restaurants. And
that timber bubble, right?
Oh my gosh. Right. Yeah. It's like we're so lucky, Stephanie. I guess we've made our own luck. We haven't had a case in the staff. We haven't had a case with our guests, and we're very, very attentive and try to be very safe. And I think the staff has really respected the bubble. But I think my staff's safety is the other thing that really keeps me up at night. I just want to make sure that I'm doing everything I can to keep them safe.
I feel that way about so many things. More, y'all staying safe and y'all staying open and all of that. But
that's right.
It's not about me. It is, however, it ends every time with one of my favorite things, the magic picnic basket, which is so much better than just your typical dream meal. So what happens is I can time travel with this. I can go back and conscript any chef to make anything that you would like, put together some of your favorite things in this basket, and I can cook a little too. So what would you like for me to bring you?
I have a real love of eating outdoors, particularly in this type of weather. I love to bundle up and sit outside, and I love a good cocktail hour with some oysters. From your neck of the woods, they're capers blades, right? Is that what they are?
Yeah, those are my favorite in the world.
Oh my gosh.
So far, I'm open to having new favorites by eating every oyster I can. But yes,
I haven't had those in so many years. But the last time I did was at where was it? Mike Lotta's new restaurant, newer.
Yeah, the Ordinary.
Mm-hmm. The Ordinary, yeah. Mm-hmm. So capers blades for me, and maybe a bottle of Pet Nat, something with some skin contact, maybe some good texture, or a Negroni. I recently ordered some kaffir limes from Boomy Growers in New Jersey. They're growing these amazing esoteric citrus varieties. And I've been drinking a lot of kaffir lime Negronis at home.
Wow.
And those have been
that is extremely esoteric.
It is a pretty ethereal drink. So that's I really can't do better than that. And then as far as meal, I just love a good steak. It's just my favorite thing in the world. Mm-hmm. And I've never been to Peter Luger, and I've always wanted to go check it out. So
I can bring that for you. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So I think that's our entree. And then, this year, I would love to get on a plane. I would love to travel, but I can't. And so the reason that I love to travel is find those new flavors, right? Those new textures, those new products. And so for me, I would just love an after dinner drink like an Amaro that I've never had before, or after dinner cheese, or something like that I've never had before. I love the new thing. I think a lot of chefs share that. We love what's new and what we haven't tasted. And for me, honestly, I think
it's a palate library. Right?
It's a palate library. And if I could just take a day off and someone could bring me some stuff that I've never tasted before or heard of, that's a dream. That's a magical day for me.
Good. I write for Atlas Obscura, so I can find some weird stuff that you haven't had before.
There we go. Oh man, that's so tantalizing in these quarantine times.
Well, if people want to learn more about Chef Nathan Brand and Timber in Johnson City, Tennessee, you can go to thesouthernfork.com. Per usual, I'm going to have links there that connect you to the restaurant as well as the face behind the voice. If you like what you hear, I want to invite you to delve into the archives, subscribe so that you don't have to remember to check back for new podcasts. And there are more than 200 culinary conversations that cover the South in all of its diversity, from Appalachia to the coast of Florida off of 30A. So thank you so much for putting up with the crazy app today, Nathan. And we'll talk to you soon.
Wonderful. Thanks so much for having me, Stephanie.
Hello and welcome to Talking with My Mouth Full. When Nate mentioned that one of his dream days would be to have a lot of things laid out before him that he'd never tasted before, to kind of go on a tasting adventure, that really resonated with me. I feel the same way, and I've really tried over the years, especially as a food critic in some respects, to have an open palate. Of course, there are things that I prefer over others, but an open palate doesn't come easily. My mom likes to point out that I was a picky child. And so I think when you're interested in something, your brain follows along. In 2020, a good many folks are experiencing loss of taste and smell, and don't realize how good it is and how important it is to your life until you don't have it. So what's so interesting to me is that I've thought about that for a long time. I mean, we joke that wine tasting notes, people always make this cultural joke that there are all these weird things that you can taste in wine, but the more you taste wine, the more you get to know it, the more nuances it has for you. To that end, a few years ago, I developed a class called CrossFit Your Palate with Chef Vincent Petrillo and mixologist Michael Limon. And it was for the VIP lounge at Charleston Wine and Food. And basically, we took a select group of guests through what balance means and how to build a palate, because a lot of these things are creating new synapses. I didn't understand the value of bitter when I was a young adult, and now I love bitter foods. The idea of sour being something that children would want was never in my vocabulary. And the Sour Patch Kids, that very famous candy, came along a little bit after me. So I was like, why are they eating that? Because I just wanted cinnamon Red Hots. That was my thing. So, or, a million other candies. I really like candies. Okay. But that's another story for another day. So that CrossFit Your Palate thing is something I'm going to bring back. I'm sure it's doing some great things for my brain as well. So get out there, CrossFit Your Palate. All you got to do is take those Costco samples when they offer, right? Until next time. You've been listening to The Southern Fork. I can't wait to bring you more culinary conversations, but in the meantime, I have one question. Are you going to eat all that?